Hi, I'm Thrifty. So this next stage of removing the engine, I had a lot of difficulty. I lost footage, I had audio not come through, it was completely shambles. So I'm just going to do a voiceover of what footage I do have and make best with what I could. So in this video I've already removed the cam cover, removed the cams. I think I'm referencing something at the back to do with the turbo. So I'm about to break off the head bolts. Do this with a breaker bar because I believe I had them at £90. Now some of you will notice that I'm starting in the middle and working outwards, which I believe is the opposite to what people recommend, starting on the outside working the way in. But I see it that if you undo the ends, that means you're going to get a boat shape, whilst if you loosen the middle, the whole thing's still fastened down at the ends, which means it's physically impossible for it to bow. But only time will tell. I've only got standard head bolts from eBay, not genuine Volvo ones, but I turned it up to about £18 of boost pressure, and I didn't get a blowing head gasket, and there wasn't any damage to the head gasket other than where it had stuck down on the ends by the water ports. I've been looking into a multi-layer steel one of the R version of the Volvo, but I haven't located it yet. There's chat about it in the forums to a company that doesn't seem to come up when you Google search, so I'm just looking for that S60 v70R multi-layer steel head gasket. Otherwise I'm just going to reuse this one with a bit of Permatex copper. So now I'm just undoing the head bolts now they've broken off. I've recently just purchased a R wiring loom, mainly because my coil pack wiring has been under oil for such a long time. All the insulation's gone hard and broken off. But what the R loom I think will enable me to do is to use twin variable cam instead of single variable cam. The T5 2.3 2005, which is basically the 2004, has a single exhaust cam variation, but the R has the twin cam, and I believe the R also has a cam that lifts a bit higher, so there'll be more fuel and more exhaust extracted over a longer duration. But an R engine, which is supposed to be weaker than the T5 2.3 because of the thinner walls, has got twin variable cam, so another engine complete would cost £1,000 to about £1,400, which I can't afford at the moment. Could just see if the ports match up from an R head, and put it onto the 2.3 T5 block, and then gain the bigger cams and variation. I've looked at the R ECU and seems the same one, so it's all to be tested, but I won't know till I can get an R engine or a complete R head. But I'll try that and see what happens. I think I was having so much trouble with the video content because my dad had passed away, and I don't know, it was just going bad. All the content corrupted and zero volume, and this is after checking that everything's good, and oh, complete nightmare. But what can you do when you've got other things on your mind? You just gotta keep busy and get through it. So if I can get the complete R engine and the T5 ECU will run it, that's one option. But then the block is slightly weaker than the 2.3 because of the thinner walls. Or the other option is putting the R head on and having slightly less displacement than the R engine, but a stronger block apparently. But I got the loom anyway because it was the only loom for an R with the twin cam variable. So I grabbed that because I didn't want to not be able to get one if I ever did change the engine. I also ordered a engine hoist off eBay, a 2-ton one, and got a big parcel delivered on Saturday. Opened it up today, Sunday, and there's like 3 big pieces of the crane frame, a couple of thin braces, and that's it. There's like 0 hydraulics, 0 wheels, the bars that go width-wise, the arm that lifts the engine that's adjustable, the hook to fasten it on, all completely missing. So sent them the videos of only 1 parcel being delivered because the ad says it's 3 parcels. And hopefully we'll have a positive outcome. It'll be on to the eBay concierge team and getting refund back. It was a complete nightmare lifting this engine out by hand. So I wasn't sure if there was going to be enough room to slide the block off the gearbox. And so I got all the timing off the side of the block, stripped it down to a bare block, slid it across onto some blocks and a jack, and then I realised it's not going to come through the bottom. We finished that video, so I'm just going to move up to the next video. Oh, that's the wrong one. There we are. So more of the undoing of the head bolts. So basically you can't get out of the bottom, which meant I was going to have to lift the block out of the engine bay by standing on the turret and the cross beam of the radiator. It wouldn't go through the bottom because of the big water hose on the end of the back of the water block, kept catching on the bell housing. So I managed to clear it through the top bit of the bell housing into the actual bell housing, but there wasn't any way to get it any further because you've got the subframe in the way from getting it across any further. So the only option was up and out. So stood on the pillar, tied a wire rope and a pole to the wire rope, lifted it up onto the gearbox. Then I was able to stand on the floor, lift it up to the inner wing and cross member, balance it on the edge of the car, climb out of the engine bay, then lift it down onto the floor. But unfortunately, the way I'd grabbed it, all the pipes on the end of the block were sticking into my chest, which made it very painful and hard to bend down to put the engine down with your knees. And once I got it out, I think it was heavier than the bare block because it still had all the clutch and flywheel on. So then I got the impact gun and it undid all the torque wrench bolts except for one, which stripped out. Now in the dual mass flywheel, they're recessed back, so you can't get like a chisel on to hammer it around or anything. So I decided, right, let's drill the head off the bolt and then the dual mass will come out. And got to about 9.5mm, worked my way up, and the drills wouldn't touch the bolt anymore any size bigger. Sharpening them on the grinder, good angle, good cutting edge, and how a drill bit is supposed to be drilled, good quality bits, nothing could touch it. So I remembered about my Bosch blue construction bits, I think that's what they're called, and they'll basically drill anything from masonry, timber, plastic, construction, steel. So I got a 12mm one of them, put it into the cordless DeWalt, and she just cut through it like she was butter. And I got the dual mass flywheel off, and then I was looking at it and I had some rotational play, and you know, it would jiggle about, and I thought, oh, this isn't good, I'm gonna have to pay a fortune for a replacement dual mass flywheel. And I looked at the videos on YouTube and it was well within tolerance, it's still good. So, but because I drilled out one bolt, I didn't have a full set. I looked online for a set of second-hand bolts for the dual mass flywheel, and they were all about £35 for a complete set second-hand. I think from Lithuania. That was a lot of money, especially for a few bolts. But I managed to get some for about 25 in England, luckily, after a bit more searching because it didn't come up the first time. So I'm going to have to sell them other ones individually for like a fiver. Right, let's move on to the next video. And now I bought a couple of magnet pens with the heads, and the first time I removed the head and when I broke my spark plug, one of the pens decided to disappear. So I got another one, and then the magnet head came out the end of the pen, so that wasn't any good. So this old magnet I've got here is a very strong magnet. It's a big chunky thing, and as you see, I managed to get one bolt like that. And I thought, oh, let's try some other ways, and I got another one. And there was a couple of them that were not wanting to come out. Which then I had a bit of an idea how to get it to do it. So I take a socket, long socket, stick the magnet onto the socket, which is basically magnetising the socket then, and was able to remove them. So that one was probably one of the ones that wouldn't come out. So I'm going to be reusing these head bolts because, you know, after a little while you retighten the head bolts and stuff just to make sure they're good. They never got that far before the engine started knocking. So I'm just going to reuse them because I just haven't got the money to buy new head gaskets and more stretch bolts and stuff. So stick that in there, making sure they're loose. And I've got to always remember to lock the zoom on the camera, otherwise it does all that annoying zooming in and out. But you see how brilliant that works. Just magnetise the socket and out they come out the recesses. So always I've stripped down the manifolds off the head and everything, but you really don't need to. You can literally just grab the whole lot and lift it out as one piece. I had to, once I lifted it up so far, I was able to access the pressure reference on the manifold, the spider underneath the manifold, and I'd take that off. And makes life so much easier lifting it all off. But I wouldn't lift it off with hand because you're stretched over the engine bay, and it's a lot of forward weight which makes it hard to lift. I'd lift it with an engine hoist, but you literally don't need to strip it down. It does come out with inlet manifold and exhaust manifold and turbo, so quite handy. And here I'm just making a reference of the water return from the turbo, which I have a Mamba metal kit, and then I bought a barb fitting to go into the end of the pipe so I could just slide it into the standard Volvo one. And the sound is good now. So we've got the Mamba water and oil kit going to a barb, going to the standard Volvo 3-inch pipe at the back there. I like to reference the videos, so when I put things back together when I've had to wait ages for, say, the engine hoist not having all the parts.
So I wanted to reference where the pipes go. So yellow to the wastegate.
This is ridiculous.
Down here I have the black pipe with the spring clip on, which went to the air intake. So I wanted to reference where the pipes go. So yellow to the wastegate. Down here I have the black pipe with the spring clip on, which went to the air intake, and also the blue one going to the air intake.
I just said that that was the water return, but there is a couple of pipes going to the air intake. And this is the beginning when everything was going so well. Got the cam cover clamps on. I had to make sure it's over on number 1 piston, because otherwise you haven't got room to turn it, because I put it in number 2. Sorry about the noise. The dog chewed the wind muffler off the mic. She's a 1-year-old puppy, and if she can get her teeth into it, she'll chew it. See, this is when I had it in number 2 rather than number 1, which meant it was catching on the master cylinder. This is going to be the most tedious job, undoing all the rocker cover bolts. There's got to be a million of them.
So if anybody knows how to stop the oil coming out of these 10mm bolt holes, put it in the comment box, because I've done it really tight. Put sealant on the threads, and they're still leaking.
I do. I have a real problem with oil coming up through the rocker cover bolts. Just can't seem to stop them. But one of the oil O-rings had deteriorated, so it's probably that. Careful with these tools, because they're going into your spark plug threads, and you don't want to ruin your spark plug thread.
Does that catch the problem?
And always try and remove your spark plugs whilst the engine's hot.
Oh,
Stops them being so tight. Because I had to get another head when I had a spark plug cross thread and not remove, and then tried to put a remover tool in, and that snapped as well, so just ended up getting another head. Oh, and when you're lifting off the complete head with the manifolds attached, make sure you undo the metal water pipe at the back of the block, of the back of the head, because there's 2 bolts that hold it in, and you'll be like, what's holding this head down? and it's literally just the metal water pipe at the back of the head, 2 bolts going in, right in that corner below the master cylinder and that strut tower. That was the worst thing. And then you've just got the spider on the bottom of the inlet manifold. I was quite pleased the other day. I got a nice comment from a guy. He just bought the CD660 start charger after he'd seen my YouTube video, and I was like, oh, that's nice. I've helped sell a wonderful product. So if Celia are watching this, even a small channel with just about 60 subs can actually sell products, which is a very interesting fact to me. I bought a lot of CD products when I was a young lad. About 18, I bought a big 250 MIG welder, and I've still got that going these days. I've had a 3/4 impact wrench, sawzall, oil pump to pump out fluids, the charger. None of it sponsored, let's buy it all myself, just looking for the cheapest deal on the internet. I think this was the first bit of good weather we'd had. Feeling it burning on the back of my neck. Yeah, that caravan needs a wash. I hate washing the caravan with a pressure washer, getting all soaked with all the back spray and everything. Nightmare. What's that is a torque at the end for the cam angle sensor. Bit. It does. Hello, Bumble. Just saying hello to the bumblebee. So recently at this time I'd just stopped to talk with the bumblebee. I asked him how the flowers were this year for the pollen, and he said, oh, we'll have to wait and see. And I said, oh, what about this Asian hornet that's going to wipe out our
say
bees?
that again then.
And he's just said, leave it be. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe. It helps me out so much. And I hope you have a good day. I can't remember how to stop it recording now. Oh my goodness. Is it actually recording or is it somebody stopped it?